To be fair, that's actually a good analogy to see versus like Ehex as well, because Richard Hart's always said chosen, but if Ehex pumped insanely, he might change his. You might see a bullish tweet from him in regards to Ehex, and people start seeing it differently. But I feel like yes, he did kind of not. Maybe he just flooded it because he didn't want no one kind of getting into the farms straight away. I don't know. No one
That's
knows.
the other thing. It's like
Uh,
he's running an entire chain. Sorry, I'm eating. But he's running an
no,
entire
you're good,
chain,
bro.
right? And so like he has to protect that chain and he has to do things that like he has to play like 3D chess in a way. And a lot of the things we might not understand why he's doing it. You know what I mean? Like he could very well change his mind about Ehex and just be like, no, Ehex is amazing. Like, or it's my favorite or whatever. You know what I mean? Like he can change his worldview at any point in time.
Yeah. And I think that's the one of the main things that I feel like Richard has been doing even in regards to updating his worldview, right? And it's like, would you have thought 3-4 years ago that Richard Hart was going to launch a meme coin launcher, a pump.fun fork, but on Pulsechain? No.
Yeah.
No one would have expected that. The first time when I see that tweet, I was thinking, oh, Richard Hart's Twitter got hacked. Guys, tread with caution. I had a wallet that had a small amount of PLS. And I thought, you know what, I'll connect this wallet. If I lose it, I lose it. That was kind of my mindset. So it is all about updating your worldview. But then it's a thing of, you just, I'm playing both parties here, right? Because like I said, I'm the host. I don't want it to just look like this is just all P and no E. And on like, it is, Giga made a good point about this earlier. Is you go on hex.com, find me that Ehex chart if you can. You go pulsechain.com, find me that Ehex chart if you can. You go through Richard Hart's tweets, find me where he says something good about Ehex recently. But you also have some tweets of Richard Hart where he was shilling Ehex, by retweeting, Uniswap most traded token was Ehex. And I remember that tweet.
Most volume on. Sorry.
Yeah, most volume on Uniswap, I think it was.
Yeah.
And he posted that. He retweeted it. He posted it, which is kind of like, okay, yeah, he might prefer PHEC, but he's still going to retweet or post or say stuff about EHEX as well. I mean, the whole point of Pulsechain, right, is cheaper gas fees, cheaper than Ethereum. We all got the same one-to-one airdrop from E to P, and which currently our P is valued at a way higher price than E. But like I said, I do think PHEX is the one that everyone should focus on. But I also believe having a small bag of EHEX, there's nothing wrong with that either, because speculation is the main reason why any coin bumps on push in crypto, right? It's due to speculations. You got an ETH upgrade will be done in the next year, Q1, Q2. It will be even cheaper to end the stake in the future if we don't upgrade. Interesting. I know just buy Hex on Uniswap, Ehex will be retail. Cool point. Google Hex price and tell me what coin shows up. Same code, but one runs on the second biggest blockchain and the other runs on a 2-year-old version of that blockchain. Interesting. Very true.
The other thing
Yeah, there's some great
The
points.
other thing is also that if you put in Hex, the first thing that shows up, at least on my thing, right? I put in Hex crypto. First thing that showed up was Coin Market Cap, and it was showing the Ehex price. And then the second thing that shows up is CoinGecko, also Ehex price, and then Hex.com. And it's like, you know, oh, Coin Market Cap again, but this time it's showing the PHEX price, not the EX price. So the first thing that does show up is actually Coin Market Cap and CoinGecko, and they both feature the EX price. Yeah. I also was watching this really famous streamer. His name is Mitch Ray. He does TA, and some guy
Yeah,
was like, sorry,
I said he's like one of the best traders
yes.
that you can follow,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, he's insane. But I was watching his stream last time, like it was like just last week, and some guy put in a super chat, and he was like, "Can you look at PHEX?" And Mitch Ray literally straight up put in hex, and then there was just like 5 different hexes, and he went into EHEX at first, and he's like going over the chart, and then people in the chat were just like, "No, PHEX, like hex on pulse chain, hex on pulse chain." He's like, "Oh," and then he goes back, and he's like, "Well, there's like 5 different hexes. Like which one do I go for?" And it wasn't 5 different hexes, it was just 5 different charts, right? But he had no idea there was even really a p hex. Like he just thought of EX because he had a stream with Richard Hart. You know that, right?
Yeah, he doesn't use deck screen. He uses trading view.
Exactly.
Right? So
Yeah.
it's a little different when you put in Hex into TradingView. There is a bunch of charts. Some of them are just weird. I don't know. They were like old charts from like maybe an exchange or something. But yeah, I've seen him. That's happened a few times on his stream where people have asked him to chart Pulsechain or Hex, and it's like confusing because he's looking at it on TradingView versus on Deck Screener. Where on Deck Screen it makes it clear. Like if you put in Hex, you'll see the Uniswap symbol, so you know it's Ehex, right? Whereas
Yeah.
on TradingView, it's just like because I use TradingView too, and like if you like Hex on Ethereum is just labeled as Hex USD coin on Ethereum. That's the proper chart on TradingView, but there's a bunch of other weird ones as well. So yeah.
Yeah, there's like Hex Wrap Pulse Chain, there's Hex something else. There's like 5 different ones, I think. Yeah, and I honestly I used to go on Hex USD. So there's one, it's Hex USD, and it literally has the Hex logo. And it's just called Hex. But the problem is that one's from crypto.com, and the chart was it's frozen. They unsupported the chart at the, or sorry, the chart is unsupported or whatever, the API, just because it honestly started right after the SEC. So I can't use this chart anymore. All my technicals and everything that I put in this chart is kind of just gone. So Richard Hart was talking to me about TA and stuff. It was good.
Actually, they stream together.
Yes, yeah, dude. But yeah, no, they streamed together, and some guy was like, Mitch, do you want to meet Richard Hart? He's like the founder of this and this cryptocurrency. And yeah, sure, we've never had a guest, or we haven't had a guest in so long. He's like, let's do it. And then Richard Hart comes on and he's talking to him. He's like, you could draw this trend line from this point to this point in the chart. And then Mitch draws a trend line. And he's like, whoa, that's cool. And then, and like Richard Hart was telling him stuff about the Ehex chart that was insane from like a technical perspective. Like he was just like, you could draw this trend line from here to here. You could do, if you do fibs from here to here, you could see that. Like Richard Hart, he does TA on his own chart. Like he paints it. It's pretty
For
cool.
sure. 100%.
Yeah, brother. I'm gonna tell you my experience, brother, because I'm a noob when it comes to DeFi. I got into this ecosystem around 2024 fall, and I scooped up Ehex at 1/10 of a penny and Phex at 1/2 a penny. But when I got onboarded by Trap and Hexacano, like I didn't know there was a Phex, dog. I just know that there was like Hex on Ethereum. That was it. I don't know anything about all. I mean, I bought some, right? But that was just like a learning curve for me. Like me as a noob, the first one that I got exposed to was Ehex. So I heard a guy saying earlier that retail probably gets exposed to that more, and I agree because as a noob, that's the first one I bought, and it's pretty dope learning with you guys. I really appreciate these spaces. Same thing with Giga, always talking. I always learn from him. I think Johnny Chaos, when I mentioned him, I always learn from that guy too. And there's a bunch of guys in this ecosystem that they got a mouthpiece on. They know how to talk and they can really educate people. And I've been on a bunch of other projects. And there's always a bunch of stupid ruggers on it. There's never anybody really trying to educate you. And this is what I really liked about this chain. Like when I found out about Richard Hart and all, and, stuff like that, those videos, the hexsearch.io or something like that. Like that learning curve was just so crazy, dog. Like I've been learning so much just in a year and a half.
Yeah, man. I think everyone here has learned a lot.
What are you betting on, E or P?
Ehex or Phex? Man, I'm a fan of both, to be honest. I have a decent sized allocation of each, but whoever was just speaking, right? You hear what they said, that they didn't even know Phex was a thing, right? So that's why I'm also a big fan of Ehex, because I know that for most people, they're gonna buy Ehex first, and so I believe like it's best to not keep all your eggs in one basket. So I hold a little bit of all, of course. Why not?
Interesting.
So here's another debate we should have, right? We're talking about Ehex versus Phex. What about Hex versus Inc? Because I know there's a lot of Inc guys in this space right now. Giga being one of them. I know HB's a big Inc guy. What's your take, Giga? Because I know you favour Inc over Hex. Do you think that Inc is going to do more numbers than Hex this cycle?
What's funny about the Ink Hex position, because I think I got coined as like the big Ink guy because I was really like vocal about, I guess, some mechanics of Ink. KR sent me the other day. I never even saw this, and I think this is super hilarious. But KR sent me this image from the pulsex.com website that says you need to hold PulseX in order to vote on the DAO.
Damn, bro, don't say this Giga out loud, bro.
Wait.
I still have buying position, bro. Don't say
I do too. I do too, bro. Don't worry, don't worry. Now, at the same time, I looked at that and I was like, well, shit, man, maybe I should rotate all my ink into Pulsex. But then I realized, I was like, well, it's irregardless of if it has utility given to it or not, it's still the smallest impermanent loss pair on the entirety of the farms, which means that farming Pulsex and ink is going to be highly lucrative the harder these things appreciate. And your impermanent loss is virtually none because the pool between those two is so thick. So I kind of am like in the boat of, worst case scenario, ink performs like Pulsex does in a similar fashion, like they move very closely. And in like best case scenario, you go back to the old world, which was, if Pulse did a 2% move, Pulsex would usually do a 4, and then ink would do a 6 to 8% move. And that's just because of the way the liquidity pools are set up. So for every new dollar coming into the system, it's easier and it moves the price more of the end point, which would be ink. Now, with that being said, Hex is still an incredible buy because it's just so thin and it's like the baby of the whole thing. Like it's like what started this all. So like fading Hex is also retarded. I think when everyone was clowning me when ink was nuking, I had like a 4 or 5 times bigger position in Hex than I did ink anyway, but I just let them clown on me because like it's funny and I'm gonna counter trade them anyway. So
I mean, we did have a mega whale, not even a mega whale, but we did have a whale recently, right? I feel like that's why Ink was underperforming, is because we had a certain someone who sold, I think it was like 600k units. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't remember the amount, but I know it was a load.
Yeah. And to be
And
fair, bro, I'm surprised that the price didn't go lower with the amount of units he sold. I'm really surprised that the price didn't go lower. I thought, you might get $1 Ink again, but it never went to that price.
yeah, there's definitely forces holding it up because and forces holding it down because Ink's been a stable coin for the past like 3 months, bro. Been rough. Ink's been rough, but I think that's opportunity, The only thing I would like, I don't even know if I should say it like out loud because then I feel like I'm gonna get front run, but maybe I should just for the sake of argument. But yeah, if you ever see the ratio, the weight of the Ink Pulse pool and the Ink Pulse X pool, if you ever see the weight of that on the farms go down by any meaningful amount or get removed from the farms, I would run as fast as you can away from me. So I would say that.
Dropping alpha, just drop some alpha on you guys.
With in regards to ink, bro, like Giga, I would encourage you to go through so Richard Hart has this one stream that he did where he talked about a lot of stuff with that he was gonna do with ink. And he did mention that like PulseX would be a way more viable governance token than ink. And the reason why is because he's like if you have people that are if you have an inflationary token, right? And therefore he's like whales or people with a lot of money would probably be in the farms accumulating the vast majority of the supply of said token, then he's like it wouldn't be a good idea to give those people the vast majority of votes because they will just vote on things that incentivize their own bags and not the actual community. And so like he's just like PulseX would be way better because it's the deflationary token
Yeah. So
for the
what I
governance.
would what I would say is like I can also point to 400 videos where he said things that he's contradicted himself on. But if we want to just go back and then make this topic the argument, then I would say wouldn't the real community be the people who have sat there and have provided the exit liquidity for the entire cycle, like for the entire chain for the past several years, because they're the ones absorbing all that cost. So I kind of go like, I think that's a really good reward. It's like the guys who are the ones who are taking the blow are actually the guys who are getting to vote on what happens in the DAO. And that's not to mention like, in the code, until it's sufficiently decentralized, blah, blah, blah comments. But the way
Yeah.
I see it is like that, I've said this a lot, is that with any staking platform, you're enticing people with some yield to provide the exit liquidity for a bunch. So I'm going to pay you $100, $200 a day. And now you're going to put up the liquidity to help absorb the weight of, all of these guys selling. I think that those guys do deserve, some amount of reward. And I think that the vast majority of them, sold their ink positions as soon as they were getting them. I mean, we know this from the Rackham wallet. that was notoriously selling $5,000 to $20,000 of ink a day, and then he went and aped $4 ink with several $1,000,000. So I think that is a situation that's like recurring that you see with across a few guys, and then there's a couple guys who just held it, like Solid X.
I think Solid X is a big believer of ink. I mean, I still think Ink's gonna do very well this cycle, just for the simple reason that everyone is fading it.
I think it's interesting that some of the biggest whales on chain that we know of that are public are the largest ink whales. I think there's something interesting there on why they gravitate that way. And I don't think it was necessarily me convincing them because I was the only one really saying it.
And
Isn't it because they were farming from like day one with large amounts of money, earning a lot of ink, that
Yeah,
they had those positions?
Ink Poseidon and Solid X, yes. But like people like Rackham had sold it all along the way and then bought it back. So it's like, what in his brain made him decide that like it was time for him to be a whale in ink again? You know what I mean? That's the question I wonder. Like, was it a
well,
person?
I
Was
could
it
I could kind of chime in on that. So to him, it was that the ink inflation got cut. So to him, he see it as go time kind of thing, and the fact that it got cut, which he never, I don't think he thought it could get cut. I think that's one of the main reasons. But obviously, that's just me. It's like what I think personally. But it's also like it's kind of weird right now, right? With Rackham, a lot of the community go against what he says, right? Like he said, don't buy a Peacock, it's a scam. Peacock ended up, flying to 15, 16, 17 mil market cap. He said, Phex is the one, not Ehex, and then you started seeing a lot of shift from Phex into Ehex. Kind of interesting. Even had like Tiger make a whole tweet on why he rotated all his Phex into Ehex, and it was simply because of Rackham's tweet. I think that's why he rotated all his Ehex into Phex. I mean, his Phex into Ehex. Sorry.
So you guys debated Phex and Ehex. Which token are you more bullish on, Ink or PLSX? Like in terms of gains, X's, which one do you think will
PLSX, my guy.
Well,
PLSX?
PLSX, my
Oh,
guy.
Jesus
What's your
Christ.
reason for that?
So I think well, I'll tell you Famous's reason. Famous is bag bias, right? Um, I think I feel like Ink has more upside in my opinion currently, right? And you just look at the liquidity. When all it takes is people can buy Pulsex, but Richard Hart can buy Pulsex, but guess what? People are gonna rotate into Ink. You see it
it's
when
the
he
most
put
speculative,
Bro, you see it
because like
when he put
Pulsex is safe.
1.4. You see it when he put $1.4 million into Pulsex, right? He slapped that bitch down. He was like pew pew pew. And what was up the most that day? It wasn't Pulsex. It was Ink. And you question it.
Interesting.
Why was Ink up the most that day when he put $1.4 million into Pulsex? And it was simply because number one, they're very tied in liquidity. So Pulsex, Ink will do the same what Pulsex does, but it was also because you had a few more buyers on Ink, right? And that's all it needs is a few more buyers on Ink than Pulsex, and Ink will outperform. But it's
You could say it this way too, is like if buying PulseX makes PulseX and Ink go up, and you have 100,000 people in PulseX, but you only have 1,000 people in Ink, don't you think that some of those 10,000 people in PulseX are going to buy the Ink and then just multiply that effect? Because that's what we've seen in the past, and we've seen it the other way too on the way down.
Yeah, I agree with you, KR, as well. Like I've seen that personally when people are buying large clips in the PLSX, and then you go look at the Ink chart and you go, oh, they're actually buying PLSX, but the Ink chart's pushing up nicely as well. And I just think like there's an argument to be made that the big whales that were farming Ink initially were getting the high APRs and they have huge bags of Ink. But right now, that's not the case, right? So they're eventually going to run out of ink to sell. So that's my reasoning that I think ink is going to be very bullish long term. But I mean, I would hold both. Like I said, don't put your eggs into one basket because you never know which one's going to push up first.
Yeah, I mean, I see Moon King with the laughing faces. I'd love to hear his opinion.
It's fading PLS a bit.
Yes and no.
Everyone except for validators, probably, yeah.
I mean, the way everyone sees it is PLS is the gas token, right? I don't know. That's an interesting question.
It's just a gas token. I mean, it's good to have it. It's not a
Yeah,
bad
but
one to hold. But in
yeah,
terms
but
of gains,
you could say that, well, Ethereum's just the gas token, but look what Ethereum done in its first cycle.
Very true. It's very true.
I don't know. I think I do think people are fading PLS a bit, thinking that, and like, don't get me wrong, PLSX has performed really well against PLS over the last, I don't know how long. It's been a while. PLSX has been moving against it hard. But I think it's going to have its time. I think people are going to be surprised when PLS actually does start moving in ratio against the other coins. I do think people are fading it.
Man, I think you saying that PLS is going to perform against the other cores makes me, that's like the most bearish statement you can make on chain, and it contradicts the ink argument.
Well, I'm not saying it's going to like put, like, in the end you're going to make more gains on PLS. I just think that there's going to be a time where PLS is going to run and everyone's going to be fading it
So when
when it
we
does that.
look at the ratios, right, and we can go look at the ratio charts of all the cores with PLS and compare them to PLS. And there is times when PLS does outperform, but to me, it's a specific time only that PLS does outperform, and
When
it's when the
chain
chain's
going down.
dumping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
so it's like in that regard, right? Like I do see PLS outperforming everything towards the top of the cycle. And the only reason why is because everyone's going to be rotating into PLS. You know, I mean, it's hard to say, right? Because I do think PLS, I think every single core, like you see the way right now everyone's kind of like Ehex. You know, we had that moment where everyone was like ink. We've had the moment where, you know, everyone's like Pulsex. We've had the moment where everyone's like Hex. I feel like you will have that moment with Pulse as well. You know, I feel like every ticker will have its like every ratio chart goes up and down.
All right,
And
here's a question, okay? It's not even about any of the coins, it's about stable coins, actually. Now,
pdai,
this,
pdai to a dollar.
no, not that stable coin, the real stable coins. So when everyone is taking profit, right? Cycles ended. We're going into a bear market. Everyone's selling into stables. Are you guys going to keep stables on Pulsechain, or are you going to bridge them over to Ethereum and hold them on Ethereum? Like, obviously, people are going to take out whatever money they want, but some people might want to just hold stables and wait it out, wait the bear market out, ready to inject again. Now, if you're going to play on Pulsechain next cycle, are you going to leave your stables on Pulsechain, or are you going to bridge them onto ETH and hold them on Ethereum?
That's a good question, to be fair. I think it all depends on the upgrades that Pulsex has, right? I think also I think it depends on where the yield will be better. Will it be better on Ethereum to go in the stablecoin farm, or will it be better to go on Pulsechain on a stablecoin farm? Right? I think that's got a big
Yeah,
aspect to it as well.
that's exactly it. Because if you look, like, there's multiple other chains. If you go to any of these like yield farming websites that aggregate like all the different farms and show their APRs on different dexes and things, you'll see that the APR on a lot of their stable pools is astronomical, even for their just like stable coin ETH pool. So, you know, if you want to hold some portion of ETH and then some portion of like USDC, let's say, or something, you know, if you're able to get, you know, some of those yield rates are 10, 20% on stable and ETH, man. So like I go, sure. Like I would leave money over here if it's in stable coins because I trust the bridge. And I think that's where we all have to be. Like if you're on Pulsechain, you have to trust the bridge regardless. So are you going to trust it in a bear market also? I think so. I think it's fair. So yeah, I mean, otherwise it's like how many people are going to just take, you know, make $1 million and then put it on Coinbase and earn their like 5% or whatever they're paying you APR on USDC.
That's a good point. You know what I mean? Yeah, I agree, 100%. What about you, Panos? Are you gonna keep your stable coins here, or are you running off to Cyprus with them?
I'm definitely going to keep some on chain, like you said, depending on the farms, right? What the yield is. If it's decent yield, then yeah, I'll keep some money over here because I'm gonna play again next cycle on Pulsechain. So I'm gonna keep some here, make some yield for sure.
Yeah.
Ink is going to go really high in price, and that's what's going to bring people to the chain. When they see $1,000 coin on Pulse Chain, that's going to be like the signal to bring people over. That was like the narrative. It's like Ink's going to $1,000, and that's what's going to bring people. So yeah, I don't think it's going to go to $1,000 this cycle personally, but I mean, it's all relevant to what the rest of the coins do, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think in summary, I would just say like I expect Ink to still continue to behave as leverage on the chain, both up and down.